You think your thoughts are harmless, just something that happens inside your head, private, invisible, without consequence. But what if every single thought you think is leaving a physical imprint inside your body? Not metaphorically, not symbolically, but biologically. Right now, as you are listening to this, your brain is not just processing words, it is changing. Neurons are firing, circuits are activating, chemistry is being released, and your body is quietly responding. You don't see it, but it is happening. Now stay with this, because this is where everything begins to shift. A thought is not just an idea. It is an electrical event, a signal, a pattern of activation in the brain. And the moment that signal is created, it triggers a chemical response. The brain releases molecules that travel through your bloodstream, and your body begins to feel something. That feeling is what you call an emotion. So every thought you think creates a feeling, and every feeling you feel feeds back into your thinking. Now notice how subtle this is. It happens so fast, you don't even realize it is happening. A thought appears, a feeling follows, another thought arises based on that feeling, and within seconds, you are inside a loop, thinking, feeling, thinking, feeling. And the more this loop continues, the stronger it becomes. Now imagine this not for a few moments, but for hours, days, months, years. The same patterns, the same reactions, the same internal conversations. Slowly, your brain begins to wire itself in that direction. Certain pathways become dominant, certain reactions become automatic, and what once required effort now happens on its own, without awareness, without choice. Now something even deeper begins to happen. Your body starts remembering, not intellectually, but chemically. The emotions you feel repeatedly become familiar to your system. Your body gets used to them, adapts to them, and over time, it begins to expect them. Now pause here, because this is where the shift becomes uncomfortable. If your body is used to stress, it starts feeling normal. If your body is used to anxiety, it starts feeling like your baseline. If your body is used to frustration, it becomes your default state. And when that happens, you no longer notice it, because it feels like you. Now think about your day, not the events, but how you feel throughout the day. Is there a familiar emotional tone, a background state that seems to follow you, no matter where you are? That is not random. That is conditioning. Your body has learned that state, and now it carries it forward into every new moment. Now here is where it becomes powerful, because once your body is in that state, your brain starts working to match it. If your body feels anxious, your mind starts producing anxious thoughts. If your body feels stressed, your mind starts finding problems. If your body feels low, your mind starts focusing on what is missing. And suddenly, it feels like your thoughts are causing your feelings. But in reality, your feelings are shaping your thoughts. And this creates a closed loop. system that feeds itself. Now imagine living inside this loop for years. The same emotions, the same thoughts, the same reactions. At some point, it stops feeling like a pattern, and it starts feeling like your personality. This is just how I am. I am like this only. I can't help it. But what you are really saying is, I have practiced this state so many times that now it feels like me. And this is where the illusion becomes complete. Because now, you are not just experiencing the loop, you are identifying with it. Now let's go even deeper, because this is where most people miss the real point. Your body does not know the difference between something that is happening right now and something you are remembering. If you recall a painful memory vividly, your brain activates the same circuits. Your body releases the same chemistry, and you begin to feel as if it is happening again, right now. So every time you revisit the past emotionally, you are not just remembering it, you are reliving it. And every time you relive it, you reinforce it. You make the circuit stronger. You make the emotion more familiar, and your body becomes more conditioned. Now imagine what this means. If you think about the same stressful situation every day, your body is living in that stress every day, even if nothing is happening outside. If you keep replaying the same pain, your body is experiencing that pain again and again. And slowly, your body begins to believe that this is your reality. Now take a breath and really feel this. Your life is not just happening outside you, it is happening inside you, through your thoughts, through your emotions, through your chemistry. And if that internal state does not change, then no matter what changes outside, your experience remains the same. That is why people can change environments, change jobs, change relationships, and still feel the same. Because they have carried their internal state with them. And that internal state is what is shaping their reality. Now this is the invisible loop, the one that most people never see. Because it feels normal, it feels natural, it feels like life. But once you begin to see it, once you begin to observe it, something shifts. You start noticing your thoughts. You start noticing your reactions. You start noticing the patterns. And in that noticing, a small space appears, a gap. And in that gap, something new becomes possible. Because for the first time, you are not just inside the loop, you are aware of it. And awareness is where the loop begins to weaken, not break instantly, but loosen, slowly, gently, until one day you realize that what felt automatic was never permanent, and what felt like you was something you had learned, and anything learned can be changed. That realization is the beginning of freedom. There comes a point where the loop is no longer just happening in your mind. It starts happening in your body. And once it reaches the body, it becomes much harder to notice, much harder to change. Because now you are not just thinking the pattern, you are feeling it, living it, being it. Let me explain this slowly, because this is where the real shift begins. In my work as a mind and success coach, I have seen this pattern again and again. People come in believing that their problem is in their thoughts. They try to change their thinking. They try to stay positive. They try to control their mind. But no matter how hard they try, they keep falling back into the same emotional states, the same reactions, the same internal patterns. And they begin to wonder, why can't I change? But the real question is not, why can't you change your thoughts? The real question is, why is your body holding on to the same emotions? Because once an emotion is repeated enough times, it stops being just a temporary experience. It becomes a familiar chemical state. Your body gets used to it, adapts to it, begins to recognize it as normal. Now imagine this. If you feel stress every day, your body becomes efficient at producing stress. If you feel anxiety regularly, your body learns how to stay in that state. If you feel frustration again and again, your system begins to operate from that baseline. And over time, your body begins to expect it. Now something very subtle begins to happen. Your body starts influencing your mind, not the other way around, because your body is always trying to maintain familiarity. It wants to feel what it is used to feeling. So it sends signals to your brain, and your brain responds by creating thoughts that will recreate that same emotional state. Now you are no longer just thinking your emotions. Your emotions are thinking you. And this is where the loop becomes invisible. Because it feels like your thoughts are logical. It feels like your reactions are justified. It feels like your emotions are real, and they are. But they are not always true. They are familiar. There is a difference. Now let's take this even deeper, because this is where most people miss the real mechanism. Every time you feel an emotion, your body releases specific chemicals. Stress hormones, adrenaline, cortisol, or in other states, dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin. These chemicals are not just signals, they are experiences. Your body literally feels them, and over time, your cells begin to adapt to these chemicals. They become more sensitive to certain states, more resistant to others, and slowly, your body develops a preference. Now this might sound strange, but your body can become addicted to certain emotions, not consciously, but biologically. If you have been living in stress for years, your body becomes addicted to stress chemistry. If you have been living in frustration, your body becomes comfortable in frustration. If you have been living in sadness, your body adapts to that state. And once that happens, anything different feels unfamiliar, even uncomfortable. Now imagine this. You decide to change. You decide to think differently, to act differently, to move in a new direction. But your body is still expecting the old state. So what does it do? It creates discomfort. It sends signals. It pulls you back. It makes the new feel wrong, and the old feel right, not because the old is better, but because the old is familiar. And this is why change feels difficult, because you are not just changing your thoughts, you are challenging your body. You are asking your system to let go of what it has practiced for years, and the body resists. Now, this is the moment where most people give up. They think, this is not working. This is not me. I can't sustain this. But what they are actually experiencing is withdrawal from a familiar emotional state. And just like any form of withdrawal, it creates discomfort, restlessness, doubt, resistance. But if you understand this, if you recognize what is happening, something changes. you stop interpreting that discomfort as failure, and you start seeing it as progress. Because now, you are not being pulled by the old pattern. You are witnessing it. Now take a breath and really feel this. There is a version of you that has been practiced over and over again. A set of thoughts, a set of emotions, a set of reactions. And that version feels natural only because it is familiar, not because it is permanent. Now imagine something else. What if you could begin to train your body to feel a different state? Not by forcing it, not by pretending, but by gradually introducing a new experience, a new emotional baseline, a new internal environment. Because the same way your body learned the old pattern, it can learn a new one, but it requires repetition, consistency, awareness. You have to show your body what is possible. You have to let it experience a different state enough times that it begins to trust it. And this is where the real work begins, not in controlling your thoughts, but in shifting your state. Because when your state changes, your thoughts begin to follow. When your state changes, your perception changes. When your state changes, your behavior changes. And slowly, your identity begins to change. Not because you forced it, but because you trained it. This is the point where biology starts responding to a new mind. And this is what I often share in my sessions as Dr. Vijay Arora. That transformation is not just psychological, it is biological. It is not just about thinking differently, it is about becoming different, from the inside out. And once that begins, once your body starts aligning with a new state, the loop that once controlled you begins to loosen. And for the first time, you start experiencing something new. Not because the world changed, but because you did. And that is where the real shift begins. Now that you can see the loop, and you understand how deeply it is wired, there is one final question that matters. How do you break it? Not temporarily, not intellectually, but in a way that actually changes who you are. Because the truth is, you don't break the loop by fighting it. You break the loop by stepping out of it. And stepping out of it begins with awareness. Not surface awareness, not just knowing, but noticing in real time as it is happening. The thought arises and you see it. The emotion begins and you feel it. The impulse to react appears and you notice it. And in that moment, something shifts. There is a small gap, a space between what is happening and how you respond. Now understand this clearly. That space is where your power is. Because before that space, everything is automatic, conditioned, predictable. But within that space, you have a choice. Now at first, this feels almost impossible because the pattern is strong. The body is conditioned, the mind is fast, and the reaction feels immediate. But the moment you begin to slow down, even slightly, you start to notice it. A thought comes, and instead of following it immediately, you pause, you observe, you don't suppress it, you don't judge it, you simply see it. And in that seeing, you are no longer the thought. You are the one noticing it. That shift is the beginning of freedom. Now let's go deeper, because awareness alone is not enough. Awareness creates space, but what you do in that space creates change. So now, when the old pattern arises, you have two options. You can follow it and reinforce it, or you can choose something different. Not something dramatic, not something forced, but something intentional. A different thought, a different response, a different emotional direction. And this is where it becomes uncomfortable, because your body will not like it. It will resist. It will try to pull you back. It will send signals to return to what is familiar. And in that moment, it will feel easier to go back to the old way. But this is the moment that matters, because this is where you are no longer repeating, you are creating. Now understand this deeply. Every time you choose differently, you are sending a new signal to your brain. You are telling your system, this is the new direction. And at the same time, you are teaching your body how to feel something new. Now this is the key, because change does not happen just by thinking differently. It happens when your body begins to experience a new state. So as you interrupt the old pattern, you don't just stop, you replace. You introduce a new feeling, a new internal state, even if it feels unfamiliar, even if it feels subtle, even if it feels like you are pretending at first, because your body does not need perfection. It needs repetition. Now imagine this. You begin to feel calm in a situation where you would normally feel stressed. You begin to feel clarity where you would normally feel confusion. You begin to feel grounded where you would normally react. And each time you do this, your body registers it. It learns it. It begins to recognize it. And slowly, what was once unfamiliar starts becoming familiar. Now this is where identity begins to change, not in one moment, but in repeated moments, where your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions begin to align. Because identity is not what you say about yourself. It is what you repeatedly experience as yourself. So when you consistently choose a new state, you are not just acting differently, you are becoming different. Now let's take this one step further, because this is where transformation becomes creation. You don't just react differently to the present. You begin to design your future. Not by imagining it casually, but by feeling it. You bring your attention to a possibility, a version of yourself, a way of being. And instead of waiting for it to happen, you begin to feel it now, as if it is already real. Now this is not imagination. This is training. You are teaching your body what that future feels like before it arrives. And the more you feel it, the more your body begins to accept it. The more your system begins to align with it. And slowly, your internal state starts changing. And as your internal state changes, your external reality begins to reflect it. Because you are no longer the same person. You think differently. You respond differently. You perceive differently. And that changes everything. Now this is what I often emphasize in my work as Dr. Vijay Arora, that real transformation is not about becoming something new overnight. It is about consistently choosing a new way of being until it becomes natural, until it becomes you. And once that happens, The loop that once controlled you no longer has the same power, because you are no longer feeding it. You are creating something else. Now take a moment and really feel this. You are not stuck. You are not broken. You are not limited. You are conditioned. And anything conditioned can be changed. Not instantly, not magically, but intentionally, step by step, moment by moment, choice by choice. And the moment you understand this, truly understand it, something shifts. Because now you know that the present moment is not just where you are, it is where you begin again, again, and again, and again, until one day you realize you are no longer repeating your past. You are living something new. And that is where your life truly changes.